Morning once more. Let me begin by thanking Reverend Sean for the invitation to join all of you today. I'm thrilled to be with you this morning and offer greetings to you from the Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church in Racine, Wisconsin. Reverend Brown was the first woman ordained to parish ministry in the United States with the support of her denomination. An image of the church organ is behind me, and the very pulpit she spoke from will be the one used when we are able to worship once again in person at church. This morning, I want to talk with you about how we might best move forward with our core values intact in light of the long year we've all endured. This last year has challenged all of us, and that is a clear understatement. While compliance and subsequent infection rates may differ in how Canadians and those of other nations have responded to COVID-19, the truth is that political borders are meaningless to this or any disease. If we have learned or been reminded of anything in these last 12 plus months, it's that everything that makes up our common humanity, ambition, love, fears, hope, all our strengths, we are also inherently vulnerable. As a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, I sometimes say that somewhere along the way, I picked up the phrase, our congregations are where we learn what it means to love. But I can be more specific than that. I first heard the phrase from Bev Smirha, a district staff member from Oakland, California. Retired now, Bev is one of the most skilled religious leaders I've ever had the privilege of working with. Our congregations are where we learn what it means to love. That's been our chief task these last 12 plus months, hasn't it? We've needed to adapt and change how we come together and interact. But all of this has been in service to keeping ourselves and others as safe as possible so that we can continue to, hearkening back to the lyrics from a 19th century hymn, make channels for the streams of love. Today, a key issue before us is equitable access to vaccines. I'm relieved to learn this week that my nation has finally agreed to provide vaccines to Canada, and that your pharmaceutical company, Medicago, I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhere close to right, has now begun phase 3 in its vaccine development. Of course, I'm worried about places like Brazil, where it seems COVID-19 is out of control or close to it. If ever there were an example of how important good governance is, COVID has provided it. But I digress. No one here, to my knowledge, is running for office. We're here to gather as a faith community. Our congregations are where we learn what it means to love. And while that may sound a bit overblown, there is some real truth to it. At the very least, it's worth aspiring to. And sometimes I forget how important that is, that aspiring. The proverbial fish can't describe what water is because water is all it knows. I was an undergraduate when a fellow student showed me that not everyone was brought up with the same religious understanding of love that I was. I was living in a co-ed dorm, and for the first time in my life, it was wonderful. I had sisters. In the middle of her first year, one of the young women on the floor fell for an attractive sophomore. But after a couple months came a painful breakup. What happened? I asked. I realized that love wasn't enough, she replied. What do you mean? I learned that you need respect too. But I thought respect was part of love. In response, her face took on the classic features of abject and pure befuddlement. I want to be careful even now not to judge the woman, but it was as if love for her was only of the romantic movie kind. I can't help but think that our whole lives, human sexuality classes would have been valuable to her, as valuable to her as its predecessor, About Your Sexuality, had been for me. I tell that story because as we begin to move into more of us becoming vaccinated, we're going to need to hold close our values to help navigate us our way forward in a way that is just and right for more than just ourselves. Congregants I now serve are asking when we can worship once again in the space they so dearly love. But the building is old, at least by our standards here, 1860s, with long outdated ventilation. The size of the space and the closeness of the pews make social distancing a challenge at best. We could only let so many people in at once. Who's going to decide who gets to come inside? What about our younger ones? The restrooms are on the lower level next to the Sunday school classrooms, and the stairs are narrow. Each of our congregations will have to come up with a plan based on local public health guidelines and the particulars of each physical space. I hope that work is proving easier for you than it is for where I serve. Let me also add that I'm impressed by both the guidance provided by the denominational leadership in the States, as well as that of the Canadian Unitarian Council. Both are doing very good work on our behalf. The one thing we do know is that small groups will be able to resume in person first. Sadly, the most dangerous thing we can do is to sing in close proximity to one another. For many of our choir members, singing as part of a larger body is a spiritual practice. They've been hit harder than many during this last year. Yes, what follows is a shameless plug. Please be especially kind to members of your choirs. Moving on. As older adults are vaccinated, generally before younger people, we need to guard against favoring one group over another, thereby segregating our communities more than they already may be. As religious educator Leanne Palmaville says, "My concern isn't with small groups meeting while wearing masks, but rather that there's a huge gap between those who are likely to feel safer gathering now, mostly older folks who have been vaccinated, and families with younger children. I'm wary of opening things up for those who feel safe because it will be so long until it's truly safe for younger people and kids especially." These are difficult decisions and those we have to make as members of communities of faith. No one is going to get everything they want. The sacrifices we have had to make are far from over. That said, when we can once again meet together in person, to the extent that these decisions will be proven to have been made in the service of welfare for all, we'll be able to take justifiable pride in the sacrifices we've made over this continually lengthening time. We also have to expect that our sanctuaries may be less full in the months, if not years ahead, as people opt for virtual worship instead of in-person celebrations for any number of reasons. More than ever, we'll need to practice the art of assuming good intentions. A result of our ethic of respect and safety will likely mean that our congregations may be among the last public institutions to reopen fully. We will need to be prepared for that and remain committed to our values in order to stay the course, in order to keep the whole of our communities as safe as we possibly can. While we follow the science, we also need to acknowledge that the science is still developing. Like so much in life, we're learning, still learning as we go. And there's one other facet I need to highlight amid all of this. I hope you won't mind a little story. A few weeks ago, I was talking with church members about when and how we might reopen. When we came to the end of what we knew and could imagine about protocols, indicators, and intensive care hospital capacity, we began talking about how we might celebrate being back together once more, because we are going to need that celebration. Among the voices that were raised said things like, "We should let all the children wear pajamas on that first Sunday back. Heck, why only the kids? Would the adults go for it? Would the minister? I loved the energy in the room, but that last one is not going to happen, at least not at first, but not for the reasons the folks who shared the space with me might expect, at least not for all the reasons they might expect. During that conversation, it hit me. We need to laugh and to celebrate being back together, yes. And we also have some grieving to do. We also have to cry. I remember a passage in a novel I first read years ago that moved me then and still stops me in my tracks today. The novel is Gunter Grass's The Tin Drum, a reflection on war-torn Poland from the eyes of Oscar, a soul who grows old in the body of his young childhood self. The scene is post-World War II Gdansk, then called Danzig, a large industrial city on the Baltic coast. Oscar is working at a jazz club named the Onion Cellar. In the post-war city and following Nazi occupation, the secret of the club was this. The proprietor placed at every seat a cutting board, a knife, and an onion, all covered with a cloth napkin. When everyone was seated, the proprietor theatrically called out, "Ready, set, go," inviting folks to uncover their onions and start peeling and slicing them. Some did so awkwardly, being unaccustomed to kitchen rituals. Others let into their onions with the grace born only of long experience. But before long, all had tears streaming down their faces. What's the word? Catharsis. The bodily reaction to the aerosolized onion juice or whatever specific scientific cause that prompts our tears, triggered the tears of those in that underground bar, those tears long held within. For all this and more, those fictional characters cried and cried together. In the words of the not so young anymore Oscar, a true community formed when to your left and right, others from all fields were weeping with you. While I know that we all grieve in different ways and at different times, I also know that we have much to grieve from what we've gone through in this last year or more. What would it be if we cried together for all we've struggled through and lost during these last 12 plus months? The first person I knew to die of COVID-19 likely contracted the disease while attending a memorial service. My grief for Tony is wrapped up with outrage still. I know I could use the cleansing of body and spirit some onion juice might prompt. There will be no clear armistice with this virus, no date in which victory can be declared. Instead, there will be vaccinations and booster vaccinations and an achingly slow journey in which humans adapt and COVID-19 becomes finally like a flu or even the common cold. Just over a month ago now, denominational leadership in the States reissued guidance on returning to in-person gatherings. The conclusion put it this way: as the pandemic continues to play out, we will continue to face uncertainty. The best we can do at any given time is to lean into our values, as well as draw on the strength and wisdom of our own people. The wisdom of our people, like these words on what love really is for my colleague, Jan Carlson Boll. Love is knotted and gnarled, like an old tree fighting with the wind, like branches too brittle for their own good, like roots that relentlessly inform how deeply we can trust and how freely we can forgive. That's the kind of tenacious love that will best serve us in the weeks and months to come. a generous, giving love with deep-seated roots, able to trust and forgive ourselves and one another. Returning now to the Galway Kinnell poem from earlier, while many good things are easy, love is not. Because love is, first of all, a power, its own power, which continually must make its way forward from transcending union, always forward into difficult day. That's where we find ourselves now, isn't it? Difficult day. We have lost much and many during these last 12 or so months, and we're not out of the proverbial woods yet. But together, we can get there with one another at our sides and with our faith communities vibrant and welcoming to all. May it be so. Amen.